One of the challenges of teaching in-person classes is that people are busy doing this online. People can show up in their jammies on a Saturday morning with their toddler on their lap. You should see the screenshots of me. I've got stuff on my head and puppets and really try to make it as engaging as I can. When I first started the membership, I was using like an online course platform. It was really hard for people to navigate. Unless I specifically linked to the thing in an email, people couldn't find it. This isn't really sustainable because it's not user-friendly. And that's when I transitioned to Searchie, which has been really the perfect solution for me. Now it's very searchable. So people put Tiger in the search bar and boom, that one comes up. It makes it easy for me and I can streamline my process. I have a template and I just check. People stick around. We have a blast. It's fun.
Welcome back to another episode of Searchie Spotlight. My name is Paulina. I'm on the customer success team here at Searchie, and I'm here today with Lane. Welcome, Lane. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Good to be here.
It's awesome that we had this opportunity to chat. I know that we've been working together for over a year now, and I know when we first met, I was thinking about how awesome your industry is. To the point where I actually wrote it down on a sticky note that I keep on the side of my desk in terms of some of the funnest industries that we have here in our communities. So I'd love for you to tell everyone a little bit about who Lane is, what you do, and who you serve.
I love that because that's the best part of what I do is that it is super fun. My name is Lane Rebello. I am the founder of Tiny Signs, and I teach parents and caregivers and early childhood professionals how to use American Sign Language vocabulary for early communication with babies and toddlers primarily, and sometimes preschoolers if they have language delays. But I do that through songs and stories and playtime activities, and it is really fun.
That's awesome. And I know that that's really just the tip of the iceberg of the sorts of resources that you offer. So it's definitely something that I want to get to a little bit later on in the interview. But first, I wanted to circle back to what you were saying in terms of the fact that you do specifically specialize in baby sign language education. And I wanted to ask, what drove you to that path? My first impression was, well, I didn't realize that's a thing. But the more I think about it, the more it makes sense.
What brought me to it was becoming a mom. So before I became a mom, I was a social worker. I still am actually a social worker. So I worked with families and children professionally for many years in a variety of different residential settings, clinical settings, and so forth. So I have a background in child development and working with kids and families. So I brought that with me into this. And then I became a mom. And when my first was a baby, I had heard of baby sign language and I was just curious about it. I was, researching everything like a new mom does about sleep and communication and developmental milestones and kind of brushing up on all that stuff I had learned in graduate school. And I just became fascinated with it. I started using it with my little one and she and I were able to communicate early. Like I think she started signing around 9 or 10 months. And most babies don't even say a first word till about their first birthday. And even then it's pretty limited. They might have, a handful of, mama, dada, baba type early first words. And she was signing light and cat and ball. I was able to really see what she was thinking by what she was doing with her hands. And it was like a little window opened into her brain. And I was hooked. I still am fascinated. My kids are big now. My kids are 13 and 17, but I still get to work with babies and toddlers and share in that excitement with parents and caregivers when their babies start communicating. And it's fascinating. So that's what hooked me in was my own kid.
That's incredible. And it's really fascinating hearing you talk not only about, that journey in terms of where you started now over 17 years ago, but also specifically how empowering it is to open that communication with, your children, your family so early on, because as you said, there's so much, potential in knowing exactly what your baby is thinking, especially so early on. I know that you offer a lot of different resources. I see some of them behind you right now as well. And I know that you do have 4 books along with a ton of awesome free and paid resources. And I know that we met specifically because you were looking at designing a membership site that you were migrating over to Searchie specifically. So, what drove you to create a membership site specifically? What is it about that model that really works with baby sign language education?
It's a long journey because I started this, the business part of it. So I started signing with my daughter when she was born in 2006. And then I really dived deep into learning American Sign Language and studying that. And then I started teaching classes, really formed my business in 2008, 2009. And it was local, it was not online at all. I was teaching classes like in churches and community centers with parents and workshops for early childhood professionals. And it was all local here. I'm in Massachusetts. So it was very much an in person business originally. And it was in 2014 that I kind of went online and I created my first online course. That transition came because, at that point, and then I had two little kids and they were like in preschool a couple hours in the morning. And I was running all over and I was getting requests to do workshops and classes in Rhode Island and New Hampshire. And I just didn't have enough hours in the day to do all the things that people wanted me to do. So that's when it made sense to transition to online because then, because I had people messaging me. I had somebody from South Africa wanting to learn with me. I'm like, well, I teach class at the community center down the street, So it became clear that I needed to be able to reach a wider audience. And so that's why in 2014, I created an online course. And that was kind of my first foray into the online world. I did that for a few years and it was really great. And I was doing both really. I was teaching classes and teaching online. And then I was approached about writing the first book. I think that was 2018. That was the first book. The publisher found me online and that kind of turned into four books. And then COVID it happened. So we're all stuck at home. I wasn't teaching in person anymore. My books had kind of made my online course a little bit redundant because it was a lot of the content overlap. I was home like all of us, and I started doing Zoom classes with my online course students, really just because I wanted to connect with them. So I originally started my membership basically wasn't a membership. I was just doing free online Zoom classes with people who are alumni of my online course. And it was fun. I was the first time I tried to kind of bring some of the elements of my in-person classes into an online space, whereas like my online course was like, more presentation workshopy with slides. This was like, okay, we're live. Let's see what we can do here with the babies and toddlers. And they're crawling all over and I'm trying to interact and engage them. And it was a fun challenge for me. And that's what kind of then morphed into the membership because people loved it. One of the challenges of teaching in-person classes is that people are busy. And it's like, well, that's my baby's nap time. I work that morning. That's too far for me to drive. But then doing this online, people can show up in their jammies on a Saturday morning with their toddler on their lap and we can sing songs and read books. I mean, I can't recreate everything I did in person with bubbles and parachutes and all that fun stuff, but I do my best. I mean, you should see the screenshots of me. I've got stuff on my head and puppets and, really try to make it as engaging and as I can for toddlers is primarily the audience. That's what happened. I started doing that. People loved it. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this every month, there needs to be kind of a system to support it. So it's coming up right now on the 2-year anniversary of my membership. And when I launched it, there wasn't a membership. I basically asked people who'd been coming and then invited my email list, said, I'm thinking of doing this thing. You want to sign up? And I promise it's going to be good. And actually, I just checked, half of my current members are still 2 years later from that original group. So people stick around. We have a blast. It's fun.
That's incredible. And what really struck me about your answer, Lane, was seeing how much your business has evolved and pivoted over basically the last decade specifically. So, from this very local grassroots approach to teaching baby sign language to moving that to developing a need for the online resources because you can't be everywhere at once, to the book specifically for that's amazing. And then also hearing how organically that shift to the membership site happened. And I love this because I think you highlighted something that a lot of people are often afraid of when they're looking to make the shift from a local in-person approach to an online model, which is you're shifting challenges from the in-person to the online, because you mentioned that there were definitely challenges with hosting those workshops in person where the timing didn't work. You're a mom first and foremost. You had another job on the go as well. So we solve a lot of problems when we take things online and we make ourselves, available through those workshops. But there's also challenges with running an online business as well. And you touched on a fun one, which is, you can't bring bubbles and parachutes with you to a Zoom call. It doesn't necessarily have that same impact, but
Right.
there's a lot of challenges with maintaining an online business, especially with a small team or as a solo entrepreneur. So, given that you've been in this space for quite some time now, what tech processes or tips and tricks have you set up for yourself to maybe ease some of those challenges, to maybe simplify your workload as you continue to create content on a monthly basis for what's now your membership site?
Like I said, when I first started the membership, there was no membership. I just basically started putting content into, I was using like a online course platform. And so I basically was like creating courses and courses inside there. It was really hard for people to navigate. Like people, there was no kind of home base for people to kind of come to, like, and as a start here to help people find what they were looking for. And that was the biggest challenge, is people couldn't find things. So I was constantly like sending links, like, here's where it is, here's where it is. I would have to, like, unless I specifically linked to the thing in an email, people couldn't find it. It was hard to navigate. So that's when I really realized, after that was about almost a year into the membership, I'm like, okay, this isn't really sustainable because it's not user friendly. And that's when I transitioned. I was looking at different options and I transitioned to Searchie, which has been really the perfect solution for me, because for a couple of reasons. One, it kind of creates that home base where I can really guide people. There's a home page and I created a start here, and it really kind of walks people. Okay, this is what you want to do first, because I've been doing this for 2 years now. There's a ton of content in there, and you can't just like dump that on somebody. You have to kind of walk them through where to start and ease them into it. And also for someone like me who is very video, obviously what I do is very visual with sign language. So I have, you helped me with this. I have a dictionary with hundreds and hundreds of videos. So organizing that was always a challenge. And, I would be creating pages. Previously, I'd be creating pages and embedding videos. And it was just kind of got clunkier. The more I added, the clunkier it got. But now in Searchie, it's very searchable. So people can actually just put in the word they want to look up the sign for tiger. They put tiger in the search bar and boom, that one comes up. It makes it easy for me, and I can kind of streamline my process. So if I upload a video, I can put it in multiple places wherever it makes sense without having to constantly re-embed it or whatever. So that just kind of simplifies things, and it works very, very well with my particular business model. And I'm sure lots of others, but I can only speak to mine, and that works very well for me. And as far as streamlining, when I first started the membership, the first couple months, I was like, what have I done? Because I committed to creating all this content each month. And it was like almost like creating like a mini course. And I still do that every month. This month's theme is woodland creatures. We're doing a forest animals theme for this month. And so every month I'm creating a mini course. First, I was like, wow, this is a lot of work. But now I just have it streamlined. I have a template and I just go through it and I just check. I've gotten very efficient at recording the videos, editing them, getting them uploaded into Searchie. And it doesn't take me more than probably about a week each month I spend on that part of things.
That's incredible. And it's I think really insightful to hear about how, there always is a process behind becoming better at things and kind of tweaking exactly, the content we know that our members want and the content that we know that we have the capacity and bandwidth to create as well. So you mentioned that you have been using Searchie now as the home base for both yourself and your members for the past year now. So I also wanted to ask, just kind of wrapping up this phenomenal interview, just in terms of what does the future look like for you, given that, you know, you've shifted and grown so much in the last decade and 17 years really in terms of, your commitment and your passion to baby sign language education. So what does, your dream future look like? And, where do you see that space for yourself in the online business space?
I've created so much content now over the past 2 years, all these mini courses that I've put out each month. So I've been toying with the idea of kind of making them available outside of the membership as one option, kind of selling them piecemeal for people who maybe don't want to do the membership thing, but want part of what's in there. So that's one thing I've been toying with. And also one of the challenges I think for me has always been that my audience is a mix of parents and caregivers. I have a lot of grandparents in my membership too, which is awesome. So parents and grandparents who are interested in using sign language to communicate with their own babies. But I also have a lot of professionals, speech therapists, early interventionists, children's librarians, daycare workers. So trying to kind of make sure what I'm doing meets the needs of both of those audiences, which is kind of my next challenge, is trying to figure out how to really make sure I'm speaking to both audiences always.
I love that. I think you spoke to two really big trends that we see in the industry as well, which is everyone after a certain point in business sees that shift from working, business to customers. So, lane to parents and grandparents to lane to practitioners as well. And I think that, you kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of what you were saying earlier about, that need for sustainability. And there is that appetite for that. And it's incredibly more, stable for a business as well when we adopt that model specifically. And then the last piece that you mentioned specifically is also repurposing that content, which I think is an opportunity that a lot of people sleep on. They don't realize that, the content that you already have is super valuable. And why not repackage that and repurpose, that tiger video that you have in the dictionary across not maybe a woodland animal, but zoo themes and different orange themes. Like there's so many ways that you can kind of look at content and see that it can live in multiple spaces. I love that about your story specifically, because I think especially with education and education for kids, the more that we can find opportunities to bring those words back and repeat them, the better we can get at communicating with our kids. So wanted to thank you so much for joining us today. Can you maybe for the end teach us how to sign thank you?
Sure, that's the easy one. You take your flat hand at your chin and just move it away. Thank you.
I love it. Well,
That,
thank you, Lane.
thank
This has
you.
been phenomenal. And I'm so happy that we had the opportunity to chat today for Searchie Spotlight.
Always good to see you, Paulina.